Hey there, ladies and gents, coming at you with another video. This one about 3 different types of economic and political systems that came up during or around the time of the Industrial Revolution. We have to talk about capitalism versus communism versus socialism. First one I want to talk about is capitalism. Capitalism was first made by Adam Smith in a book called The Wealth of Nations. Adam Smith believed in the free market economy. He wanted anybody to be able to freely go to the market and put his or her good out there for people to buy. So anybody who had an idea, anybody who wanted to sell anything could do so in the free market. There wasn't somebody standing at a gate saying, no, you can't be at the market, you can't sell your good. He wanted it totally free. He also wanted laissez-faire, lazy government, hands off. He did not want the government to have their little tiny fingers regulating the economy. He thought something called the invisible hand would regulate prices. So when the prices got too high, then the invisible hand would bring them down, but when prices got too low, the invisible hand would bring them up. All right, this is what Adam Smith is saying. Adam Smith also believed in private property. He believed that everyone should own things that belonged to them, that they could physically own things and say, this is my chair, this is my house. Now, quite possibly the most important one to worry about is this last one. The means of production, MOP, that's going to be up several times in this lecture, so make sure you remember MOP in all caps right there means means of production. In capitalism, the means of production is owned by the bourgeoisie. Remember, the bourgeoisie, the upper class people, the people with lots of money, they are the ones that own the means of production. They own the factories, they own the infrastructure, they own the roads, they own the railroads, etc., etc. They're the top dogs in a capitalist society. A couple of good things about capitalism. First, there's lots and lots of money involved, and because there's a lot of money involved, there's what's called incentive to work hard. If you work hard in a capitalist society and you have a great idea, you can come up with a lot, you can come out with a lot of money. You can really succeed. And there's freedom. You can work for whatever company you want, whatever, you can buy whatever brand name that you want, and there's lots of choice. A couple of bad things about capitalism, though, are first that there's no safety net. Okay, if you can't find a job, if a recession hits and you don't have work, you can't afford things, well, you're kind of out of luck when it comes to capitalism, because in a pure capitalist society, there's no safety net. And there's a big gap between the really, really rich people and the really, really poor people. So the really rich people have lots and lots and lots of money. They're basically swimming in money, where the really poor people can't afford their daily needs. Communism. When we talk about communism, you always think Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Mostly Marx, but make sure that you know that Engels goes along with him. They wrote something called the Communist Manifesto, and in the Communist Manifesto, they made this ideal society. And in their ideal society, there was no private property, so nobody owned anything, and there were no social classes. All right, so there's no upper class, there's no bourgeoisie, there's no middle class, there's no poverty, nothing in their communist society. The MOP, means of production, is controlled by the state. So the government is the group that owns everything. They own all the roads, they own all the, right now, telephone lines and internet lines. They would own all of the railroads back then. And in a purely communist society, everybody has an equal playing field, all right? Everyone's got a job, everyone's got healthcare, everyone has a certain amount of money, and everyone's got a place to live. That equality and meeting basic needs is one of the really good things about communism. In theory, communism provides for everybody equally, so there will never, ever, ever be a chance in pure communism that that people will be without a job and won't be able to afford their heat for the winter, as it sometimes happens in capitalist societies. Some of the bad things, though, are that there's no reward or incentive for doing well, and there's no punishment if you slack off. There's also no choice, so you only have one brand. Say I liked Coke, and my newly communist country only made Pepsi. Well, I wouldn't be able to get Coke. It would be illegal for me to have Coke in a country that only makes Pepsi. All right, in communism, you only have one choice. So if the state chooses that they want to make Pepsi, then they have to make Pepsi, and they only make Pepsi. Also, a bad thing about communism is that everybody is expected to be, act, work, live exactly the same way. Okay, so this is like the downside of everybody being equal. Everyone is treated the same and everyone's expected to act the same. A lot of people, when we talk about all of these different isms, talk about socialism and they put it as the same or equal to communism. Socialism and communism are pretty close, but there are a few key differences between socialism and communism that you guys need to know. It is different, slightly, but different. Here's the big difference. That's why I wanted you to remember MOP and pay attention to that. In socialism, the workers, the people working, are the people that control the means of production. All right, so all of the people collectively in a group own the railroads, own the turnpikes, own now the internet lines, the phone lines, okay? In socialism, everybody owns everything. In communism, the state owns everything. Now, in socialism, you get out what you put in. So if you work hard, if you are great at putting those door handles on the cars on the assembly line, then if you put more door handles on than everybody else, then you are going to get rewarded. You are going to get more money. You're going to get more payment for things that you've done. And if you're a slacker, all right, if you don't put as many door handles on as the guy next to in the next assembly line over, well, you don't get paid quite as much. Socialism is purely an economic philosophy. All right, so socialism, we're only talking about the way the economy is run. In communism, you can have a political, so a government based on communism. You can't really have a government based on socialism. You got any questions? Rewind the video, post them in the comments. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.